George Washington, born February 22, 1732, in Virginia, and deceased December 14, 1799, served as the first President of the United States from 1789 to 1797. Revered as the father of the nation, he set enduring precedents rather than seeking power. Washington stabilized a fragile republic, organized the federal government, and supported the Constitution's authority. He established a professional cabinet, backed Alexander Hamilton's financial system, and enforced federal law during the Whiskey Rebellion. Choosing neutrality, he avoided foreign entanglements while strengthening national unity. Washington voluntarily stepped down after 2 terms, proving leadership meant restraint. His farewell address warned against factionalism and permanent alliances, shaping American political culture for generations. Worldwide influence continues today as a democratic symbol admired globally still.
John Adams, born October 30, 1735 in Massachusetts and deceased July 4, 1826, served as the second president from 1797 to 1801. A fierce advocate of independence, Adams previously helped draft the Declaration and negotiated peace with Britain. As president, he faced intense partisan conflict and an undeclared naval war with France known as the Quasi-War. Adams strengthened the Navy, defended national sovereignty, and avoided full-scale war through diplomacy. Although controversial, his commitment to rule of law prevailed. He appointed John Marshall as Chief Justice, shaping constitutional interpretation. Adams left office unpopular, yet history honors his integrity, courage, and devotion to Republican government. His legacy reflects principled leadership during crisis, proving conscience can outweigh popularity over time, always eventually respected. Thomas Jefferson, born April 13, 1743 in Virginia and deceased July 4, 1826, served as the third president from 1801 to 1809. Author of the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson envisioned a republic grounded in liberty and reason. As president, he doubled the nation's size through the Louisiana Purchase, securing America's future expansion. Jefferson reduced federal power, cut national debt, and promoted agrarian democracy. His Embargo Act, however, harmed trade and drew criticism. Jefferson founded the University of Virginia and championed religious freedom. Though complex and contradictory, his ideas profoundly shaped American identity, constitutional principles, and democratic ideals worldwide. His intellectual legacy inspires debates about freedom, equality, power, leadership, morality, responsibility, and national purpose today, still, everywhere, enduring, influential, studied, discussed. James Madison, born March 16, 1751 in Virginia and deceased June 28, 1836, served as the fourth president from 1809 to 1817. Known as the father of the Constitution, Madison helped design the framework of American government and the Bill of Rights. His presidency was dominated by the War of 1812 against Britain, a conflict that tested national survival. Despite early setbacks, the war strengthened American nationalism. Madison supported constitutional limits, balanced federal authority, and protected civil liberties. After the war, he encouraged economic development and unity. Madison's intellectual leadership ensured constitutional endurance and the survival of the young republic.
His careful reasoning emphasized compromise, law, and stability, influencing governance traditions and political thought for generations, nationally, institutionally, enduringly. James Monroe, born April 28, 1758, in Virginia, and deceased July 4, 1831, served as the fifth president from 1817 to 1825. His era, called the Era of Good Feelings, was marked by national unity and declining partisan conflict. Monroe strengthened American influence through the Monroe Doctrine, warning European powers against colonization in the Western Hemisphere. He supported westward expansion, infrastructure growth, and national defense. However, his presidency also faced the Missouri Compromise, revealing tensions over slavery. Monroe's leadership emphasized independence, security, and continental ambition, shaping America's role as a rising power. His foreign policy vision established lasting principles influencing diplomacy, sovereignty, regional dominance, confidence, caution, resolve, foresight, balance, realism, patience, credibility, authority, and legacy worldwide, enduring, studied, remembered today.
John Quincy Adams, born July 11, 1767, in Massachusetts, and deceased February 23, 1848, served as the sixth president from 1825 to 1829. Son of John Adams, he was a skilled diplomat, helping negotiate the Treaty of Ghent and the Monroe Doctrine. His presidency faced fierce partisan opposition despite ambitious plans for national infrastructure, education, and scientific advancement. Adams advocated for internal improvements, canals, roads, and research institutions, emphasizing federal responsibility in progress. Political infighting limited his achievements, but he remained committed to principle over popularity. Later, he served in the House of Representatives for decades, opposing slavery and defending civil liberties. Adams' intellectual rigor, diplomatic skill, and moral consistency cement his reputation as a visionary statesman, admired for foresight, integrity, courage, and unyielding dedication to the nation's long-term welfare.
Andrew Jackson, born March 15, 1767, in the Carolinas, and deceased June 8, 1845, served as the seventh president from 1829 to 1837. A war hero of New Orleans, he became the champion of the common man and transformed American politics with populist appeal. Jackson strengthened executive power, vetoed the national bank, and confronted states' rights challenges during the nullification crisis. His controversial Indian removal policy forcibly displaced Native Americans, leaving a tragic legacy. Jackson's leadership style was bold, uncompromising, and polarizing, reshaping the presidency into a stronger, more central authority. Advocates praise his commitment to democracy and popular sovereignty, while critics condemn ethical consequences. Jackson remains one of the most studied figures in U.S. history, representing both the expansion of political participation and moral complexities of leadership in a growing nation.
Martin Van Buren, born December 5, 1782, in New York, and deceased July 24, 1862, served as the eighth president from 1837 to 1841. A skilled politician and organizer of the Democratic Party, Van Buren inherited the Panic of 1837, a major economic depression. His presidency focused on stabilizing finances and maintaining party unity, yet the economic crisis undermined his popularity. Van Buren opposed aggressive territorial expansion and avoided war, emphasizing diplomacy and law. He pioneered modern political campaigning and emphasized loyalty within party structures. Though criticized for economic mismanagement, his strategic vision shaped the emerging party system. Van Buren's commitment to constitutional principles, political innovation, and bureaucratic efficiency left a subtle but lasting imprint on American politics, influencing presidential leadership, party organization, and electoral strategy. William Henry Harrison, born February 9, 1773 in Virginia, and deceased April 4, 1841, served as the 9th president, holding the shortest term in U.S. history, only 31 days. A military hero from the Battle of Tippecanoe, Harrison ran as a Whig, emphasizing frontier strength and popular appeal. His presidency ended tragically after catching a fatal illness during his inaugural address. Despite the brevity of his leadership, Harrison's campaign marked the first modern log cabin strategy, appealing to ordinary voters through symbolism and image. His death raised constitutional questions about succession, leading to John Tyler assuming the presidency. Harrison's impact lies not in policy, but in political innovation, campaign culture, and highlighting the importance of presidential health, succession clarity, and national expectations in the evolving republic. John Tyler, born March 29, 1790 in Virginia and deceased January 18, 1862, served as the 10th president from 1841 to 1845, assuming office after William Henry Harrison's death. Tyler, nicknamed His Accidency, faced opposition from his own Whig party, yet maintained firm adherence to constitutional authority. He vetoed numerous bills, asserting presidential powers, particularly regarding the national bank. Tyler oversaw the annexation of Texas, a step toward expanding U.S. territory and intensifying sectional debates over slavery. His presidency set crucial precedents for succession and executive authority. Though politically isolated, Tyler remained committed to principles of governance, territorial ambition, and diplomacy. History remembers him as a determined and independent leader whose presidency tested constitutional resilience and shaped the evolving power of the American executive branch.
James K. Polk, born November 2, 1795 in North Carolina and deceased June 15, 1849, served as the 11th president from 1845 to 1849. A masterful strategist, Polk achieved all major campaign goals, annexing Texas, resolving the Oregon boundary dispute, and winning the Mexican-American War, which expanded U.S. territory significantly. He modernized government operations, strengthened the Treasury, and advocated limited federal spending. Polk's presidency exemplified purposeful leadership, balancing manifest destiny ambitions with disciplined governance. Despite health deterioration, he worked tirelessly to fulfill his promises. Though controversial for territorial expansion and war, Polk's effective focus on objectives demonstrated executive efficiency and vision. His single-term commitment reinforced the principle of presidential responsibility, leaving a legacy of achievement, expansion, and decisive leadership. Zachary Taylor, born November 24, 1784 in Virginia, and deceased July 9, 1850, served as the 12th president. A national hero of the Mexican-American War, he had no prior political experience before his election. Taylor's presidency was dominated by the escalating debate over slavery in newly acquired territories.
He opposed the expansion of slavery despite being a Southern slaveholder, angering pro-slavery factions. His unexpected death after 16 months in office ended plans to mediate sectional tensions personally. Taylor's military reputation and independent stance influenced the Whig Party and set precedents for presidential authority over partisan pressures. Though short-lived, his tenure highlighted the fragile balance between national unity, moral leadership, and the growing sectional crisis that would culminate in the Civil War. Millard Fillmore, born January 7, 1800 in New York and deceased March 8, 1874, served as the 13th president, succeeding Zachary Taylor. Fillmore faced intense sectional conflict and signed the Compromise of 1850, which included the controversial Fugitive Slave Act. He aimed to preserve the Union and ease tensions between North and South, but faced criticism for appeasing pro-slavery interests. Fillmore expanded trade, supported infrastructure projects, and strengthened the federal government's role in mediating crises. After leaving office, he remained active in politics, including a failed 1856 presidential run for the Know-Nothing Party. Fillmore's presidency illustrates the difficulties of leadership during rising sectionalism, emphasizing compromise, constitutional duty, and the moral complexities confronting early leaders navigating a divided nation. Franklin Pierce, born November 23, 1804 in New Hampshire and deceased October 8, 1869, served as the 14th president from 1853 to 1857. A Northern Democrat sympathetic to Southern interests, Pierce supported the Kansas-Nebraska Act, inflaming sectional conflict over slavery. His expansionist foreign policy included the Gadsden Purchase and efforts to acquire Cuba. Pierce's presidency struggled with rising tensions, violent clashes in Kansas, and weak leadership during national divisions. Despite personal tragedies, he sought compromise and Union preservation. Critics view him as an ineffective president whose policies accelerated sectionalism. Nonetheless, Pierce's tenure reflects the political, social, and moral challenges of antebellum America, demonstrating how leadership amid national discord requires vision, empathy, and ethical courage, qualities tested beyond ordinary capacity. James Buchanan, born April 23, 1791 in Pennsylvania and deceased June 1, 1868, served as the 15th president from 1857 to 1861. Facing the nation's unraveling over slavery, Buchanan believed Southern secession was illegal but felt federal authority could not stop it. His inaction allowed tensions to intensify, setting the stage for the Civil War. Buchanan's administration contended with the Dred Scott decision, economic recession, and territorial disputes. His leadership is often criticized as indecisive and passive, reflecting the immense difficulty of preserving unity amid irreconcilable sectional divides. Buchanan's presidency remains a cautionary tale about executive responsibility, the consequences of political compromise, and the limits of constitutional interpretation in moments of national crisis, leaving historians to debate lessons of morality, duty, and governance. Abraham Lincoln, born February 12, 1809 in Kentucky and deceased April 15, 1865, served as the 16th president during America's most profound crisis, the Civil War. Lincoln preserved the Union, issued the Emancipation Proclamation, and navigated the passage of the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery. Known for eloquence, strategic vision, and moral clarity, he balanced political factions, military strategy, and humanitarian goals. Lincoln's leadership transformed the presidency, demonstrating courage, resilience, and empathy under extreme pressure. His assassination shocked the nation, but immortalized him as a symbol of freedom, equality, and democratic ideals. Lincoln's legacy continues to inspire leaders worldwide, exemplifying the power of principle, perseverance, and vision to shape history and human rights enduringly, forever resonating across generations, cultures, and nations globally.
Andrew Johnson, born December 29, 1808 in North Carolina and deceased July 31, 1875, became the 17th president after Abraham Lincoln's assassination. A Southern Democrat loyal to the Union, Johnson struggled to implement Reconstruction policies amid a divided Congress. He opposed radical Republicans' efforts to protect freedmen's rights and frequently clashed with Congress, resulting in his impeachment. He narrowly avoided removal. Johnson focused on restoring Southern states to the Union, but failed to address racial injustice effectively. His presidency highlighted the limits of executive power and the challenges of post-war reconciliation. While his approach is widely criticized, Johnson's tenure underscores the turbulent Reconstruction era and the complexities of balancing constitutional authority, national unity, and emerging civil rights in the aftermath of a devastating Civil War.
Ulysses S. Grant, born April 27, 1822 in Ohio and deceased July 23, 1885, served as the 18th president from 1869 to 1877. A Union war hero, Grant sought to enforce Reconstruction, protect African American rights, and stabilize the post-Civil War nation. His administration battled the Ku Klux Klan and promoted civil rights legislation, though plagued by corruption scandals among subordinates. Grant strengthened the federal government's authority, modernized currency, and advocated westward development. Despite criticisms, his presidency was defined by commitment to equality under the law and preserving national unity. Grant's military experience translated into disciplined leadership, leaving a legacy of courageous advocacy for civil rights, national integrity, and the ongoing challenge of governance amid societal transformation in the aftermath of war. Rutherford B. Hayes, born October 4, 1822 in Ohio and deceased January 17, 1893, served as the 19th president from 1877 to 1881. Hayes ended Reconstruction through a controversial compromise, withdrawing federal troops from the South, which restored home rule but undermined African American rights. He promoted civil service reform, merit-based appointments, and modernization of federal administration. His presidency focused on healing post-war divisions, balancing sectional interests, and maintaining national stability. Hayes advocated education, infrastructure improvements, and honest governance. Despite limited popularity, his leadership emphasized principles over political expediency. His tenure illustrates the tension between reconciliation and justice, showing how decisions intended to unify can simultaneously sow inequality, leaving a complex legacy of reform-minded yet cautious leadership during a sensitive transitional period in American history. James A. Garfield, born November 19, 1831, in Ohio, and deceased September 19, 1881, served as the 20th president, tragically assassinated after only 6 months in office. A brilliant scholar, Civil War general, and congressman, Garfield advocated civil service reform, meritocracy, and educational advancement. He opposed political patronage and corruption, aiming to strengthen federal governance. Despite his brief tenure, Garfield initiated reforms, addressed sectional tensions, and promoted civil rights cautiously. His assassination shocked the nation and highlighted vulnerabilities in presidential security. Garfield's vision for an ethical, educated, and efficient government left enduring inspiration, demonstrating that leadership potential is measured not only by duration, but by the clarity of vision, moral courage, and principles he embodied, even in a tragically short presidency. Chester A. Arthur, born October 5, 1829, in Vermont, and deceased November 18, 1886, became the 21st president following Garfield's assassination. Initially seen as a party loyalist and machine politician, Arthur surprised the nation by championing civil service reform, signing the Pendleton Civil Service Act. He modernized the Navy, improved customs enforcement, and sought to professionalize government operations. Arthur's leadership blended pragmatism, integrity, and vision, transforming a reputation of political opportunism into one of constructive governance. Though often overlooked, his presidency demonstrated the capacity for personal growth and institutional reform. Arthur's focus on efficiency, fairness, and modernization left a legacy of strengthening federal systems, ensuring government accountability, and enhancing public trust during a pivotal era of American institutional development. Grover Cleveland, born March 18, 1837, in New Jersey, and deceased June 24, 1908, served as the 22nd president, later returning as the 24th. His first term focused on fiscal conservatism, reducing government waste, and opposing excessive tariffs. Cleveland battled political corruption, vetoed numerous bills, and maintained principles even against party pressure. He strengthened the executive office, advocated honesty, and championed merit-based appointments. His presidency addressed labor unrest and interstate commerce regulation. Renowned for integrity, Cleveland restored public confidence in government, demonstrating that principled leadership often demands unpopular decisions. His return to office later reinforced commitment to values over politics, leaving a lasting example of independence, reform, and moral consistency in U.S. presidential history, revered as a model of conscientious governance and civic responsibility.
Benjamin Harrison, born August 20, 1833, in Ohio, and deceased March 13, 1901, served as the 23rd president. Grandson of William Henry Harrison, he oversaw a period of industrial growth, modernization, and global diplomacy. Harrison strengthened the Navy, signed the Sherman Antitrust Act to regulate monopolies, and facilitated the admission of 6 new states. He supported civil service reform and federal oversight of elections, promoting governmental accountability. Harrison's administration faced economic challenges, including tariff debates and a growing labor movement. Although often overshadowed by his predecessors and successors, his presidency marked significant legislative and infrastructural progress. Harrison's dedication to modernization, law, and national growth left a lasting impact on governance, business regulation, and the balance between executive authority and legislative cooperation in the late 19th century.
Grover Cleveland returned as the 24th president, born March 18, 1837, in New Jersey. His second term was dominated by the Panic of 1893, a severe economic depression. Cleveland prioritized fiscal responsibility, repealed the Sherman Silver Purchase Act, and worked to stabilize the economy. He opposed imperialist policies and expanded foreign trade through diplomacy. His commitment to honesty and principled decision-making often conflicted with political pressures, demonstrating moral courage over popularity. Cleveland's handling of labor strikes, including the Pullman strike, showcased federal authority in maintaining order while balancing social concerns. Despite criticism, his second term reinforced his reputation as a steadfast, ethical leader. Cleveland's legacy reflects fiscal prudence, principled governance, and the challenges of executive leadership amid economic crisis and social tension. William McKinley, born January 29, 1843, in Ohio, and deceased September 14, 1901, served as the 25th president. His administration oversaw the Spanish-American War, which expanded U.S. influence globally and marked the rise of America as a world power. McKinley promoted protective tariffs to strengthen the economy, modernized currency, and encouraged industrial growth. His leadership balanced diplomacy with military action, notably acquiring territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. McKinley's presidency ended tragically with assassination, highlighting vulnerabilities in national security. His policies fostered economic expansion and international engagement. McKinley's combination of pragmatism, moral conviction, and strategic vision shaped the United States' emergence on the global stage, leaving a legacy of growth, national strength, and the responsibilities of global leadership during the Gilded Age. Theodore Roosevelt, born October 27, 1858, in New York, and deceased January 6, 1919, served as the 26th president after McKinley's assassination. A charismatic reformer, Roosevelt championed the Square Deal, emphasizing conservation, corporate regulation, and consumer protection. He expanded the national park system, broke up monopolies, and strengthened the Navy. His foreign policy, guided by "speak softly and carry a big stick," extended American influence globally. Roosevelt's energetic leadership transformed the presidency into an active force for progressive reform and national vision. Known for adventurous spirit, diplomacy, and decisive action, he balanced domestic progress with international strategy. Roosevelt's legacy endures in environmental conservation, antitrust law, and the concept of proactive executive leadership, inspiring generations to combine moral purpose with dynamic governance for national and global benefit. William Howard Taft, born September 15, 1857, in Ohio, and deceased March 8, 1930, served as the 27th president. A former judge and administrator, Taft emphasized law, efficiency, and antitrust enforcement, continuing progressive reforms initiated by Roosevelt. He strengthened federal courts, expanded the civil service system, and promoted tariff reforms. Despite achievements, Taft struggled politically, facing a split within the Republican Party, which weakened his presidency. After leaving office, he achieved his lifelong ambition as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the only president to do so. Taft's presidency illustrates the tension between legalistic governance and political necessity, highlighting the importance of constitutional adherence, administrative competence, and long-term impact beyond electoral success. His legacy combines judicial influence with executive accomplishments, shaping modern governance. Woodrow Wilson, born December 28, 1856 in Virginia and deceased February 3, 1924, served as the 28th president. A scholar and reformist, Wilson led progressive domestic policies, including the Federal Reserve Act, Federal Trade Commission, and income tax reform. Internationally, he guided the United States through World War I, promoting the League of Nations and advocating for global diplomacy based on moral principles. Wilson's vision of making the world safe for democracy reflected his idealism, though his racial policies and civil liberties record are controversial. His leadership combined intellectual rigor with political strategy, influencing both domestic reforms and international relations. Wilson's legacy endures in modern economic systems, global diplomacy, and the role of visionary leadership during transformative periods of national and world history.
Warren G. Harding, born November 2, 1865 in Ohio and deceased August 2, 1923, served as the 29th president. Harding's campaign promised a return to normalcy after World War I, focusing on economic recovery, reduced government spending, and pro-business policies. His administration encouraged growth, tax reductions, and industry expansion, but it was marred by scandals, most notably the Teapot Dome corruption case, which surfaced posthumously. Harding's approachable demeanor, charm, and commitment to reconciliation appealed to a war-weary nation. Despite personal failings and limited political foresight, he emphasized national unity, veterans' welfare, and international trade. Harding's sudden death left an ambiguous legacy. Economic stabilization and popular appeal contrasted with administrative corruption, shaping public expectations of presidential accountability and ethical leadership in the 20th century.
Calvin Coolidge, born July 4, 1872 in Vermont and deceased January 5, 1933, served as the 30th president, completing Harding's term and winning re-election. Nicknamed Silent Cow for his reserved demeanor, he championed limited government, fiscal responsibility, and economic prosperity during the Roaring Twenties. Coolidge cut taxes, reduced federal debt, and encouraged private enterprise, fostering unprecedented industrial growth and consumer confidence. Socially conservative yet business-friendly, he avoided interventionist policies while promoting infrastructure and innovation. Coolidge's calm leadership style contrasted with the flamboyance of the era, exemplifying steady governance amid cultural change. His presidency reflects a blend of prudence, restraint, and support for capitalism, leaving a legacy of economic growth, governmental simplicity, and political stability during a transformative period of American society.
Herbert Hoover, born August 10, 1874 in Iowa and deceased October 20, 1964, served as the 31st president during the onset of the Great Depression. Previously a successful engineer and humanitarian, Hoover initially relied on voluntary cooperation and limited government intervention to stabilize the economy. The stock market crash of 1929 and ensuing mass unemployment challenged his policies.
Despite efforts to provide relief through public works and emergency measures, his strategies were widely seen as insufficient, eroding public confidence. Hoover's presidency illustrates the limits of laissez-faire ideology in crisis, highlighting tensions between morality, leadership, and economic necessity. Though criticized during his term, his long-term contributions to humanitarian aid and engineering innovations reflect a complex legacy of service, resilience, and commitment to national welfare. Franklin D. Roosevelt, born January 30, 1882 in New York and deceased April 12, 1945, served as the 32nd president and the only one elected to 4 terms. Leading the nation through the Great Depression and World War II, Roosevelt introduced the New Deal, revolutionizing social welfare, banking, and labor rights. His fireside chats restored public confidence, blending empathy, charisma, and decisive action. FDR guided America into global leadership, forming alliances and shaping post-war diplomacy. Despite physical disability from polio, his energy, vision, and political skill transformed the presidency into a proactive engine for domestic and international policy. Roosevelt's legacy endures in social reform, wartime strategy, and democratic resilience, exemplifying extraordinary leadership amid unprecedented economic and global challenges. Harry S. Truman, born May 8, 1884 in Missouri and deceased December 26, 1972, became the 33rd president after FDR's death. Truman made decisive choices in the final stages of World War II, authorizing the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ending the war but igniting global debate. He established the Truman Doctrine, committing the U.S. to contain communism, and oversaw the Marshall Plan to rebuild Europe. Domestically, he desegregated the armed forces and expanded social welfare programs. Known for plain-spoken honesty and grit, Truman faced political skepticism, yet strengthened U.S. global leadership and democratic values. His presidency shaped Cold War strategy, promoted civil rights, and reinforced the responsibilities and moral weight of presidential decisions during a transformative, high-stakes era in history. Dwight D. Eisenhower, born October 14, 1890 in Texas and deceased March 28, 1969, served as the 34th president. A 5-star World War II general, Eisenhower brought strategic vision, discipline, and pragmatism to governance. He ended the Korean War, promoted infrastructure development through the interstate highway system, and managed Cold War tensions with measured diplomacy. Eisenhower emphasized balanced budgets, economic growth, and containment of communism without excessive militarization. His modern republicanism blended conservative fiscal policies with social progress. Eisenhower's calm, decisive leadership, combined with personal integrity, inspired confidence domestically and internationally. His presidency strengthened U.S. global influence, fostered post-war prosperity, and established the modern perception of the president as both moral leader and strategic administrator, leaving a lasting blueprint for executive effectiveness. John F. Kennedy, born May 29, 1917 in Massachusetts and deceased November 22, 1963, served as the 35th president. Known for charisma, youthful energy, and inspiring oratory, Kennedy faced Cold War crises, including the Cuban Missile Crisis, successfully avoiding nuclear conflict. He advanced civil rights initiatives, proposed the Peace Corps, and championed the space race, setting the goal to land a man on the moon. Kennedy navigated political challenges with strategic diplomacy and bold decision-making, enhancing America's global stature. His assassination shocked the world, immortalizing him as a symbol of hope, idealism, and courage. Kennedy's legacy endures in public service inspiration, Cold War diplomacy, technological ambition, and the enduring ideal that visionary leadership can combine moral purpose with practical strategy on a global stage. Lyndon B. Johnson, born August 27, 1908, in Texas, and deceased January 22, 1973, became the 36th president after Kennedy's assassination. Johnson championed civil rights, signing the Civil Rights Act 1964 and Voting Rights Act 1965, transforming social and political landscapes. Domestically, he pursued the Great Society, addressing poverty, education, and health care through Medicare and Medicaid. Internationally, Johnson escalated U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, facing growing public opposition. His leadership blended political skill, ambition, and legislative mastery, yet controversy over Vietnam overshadowed achievements. Johnson's tenure illustrates the duality of visionary domestic reform and challenging foreign policy decisions. His presidency profoundly reshaped civil rights, social welfare, and federal government roles, leaving a complex legacy of progress, controversy, and enduring influence on American society. Richard Nixon, born January 9, 1913 in California, and deceased April 22, 1994, served as the 37th president. Nixon's foreign policy achievements include opening relations with China, détente with the Soviet Union, and strategic arms limitation agreements, reshaping global diplomacy. Domestically, he established the Environmental Protection Agency and implemented significant economic policies. However, Nixon's presidency ended in scandal with the Watergate affair, resulting in his resignation to avoid impeachment. His leadership style combined political cunning, strategic foresight, and pragmatism, yet ethical failures overshadowed achievements. Nixon's legacy reflects the tension between policy success and personal misconduct, illustrating the enduring importance of transparency, accountability, and ethical behavior in executive leadership. His career remains a study of both diplomatic genius and political cautionary lessons. Gerald Ford, born July 14, 1913 in Nebraska, and deceased December 26, 2006, served as the 38th president, assuming office after Nixon's resignation. Ford's presidency focused on restoring trust in the executive branch post-Watergate. He pardoned Nixon to heal national divisions, a controversial but principled decision. Domestically, Ford faced economic challenges, including inflation and recession, while navigating energy crises. His steady, honest leadership emphasized moderation, bipartisanship, and institutional respect. Though politically constrained, Ford reinforced the importance of ethical governance, constitutional norms, and presidential integrity. His calm, pragmatic approach reassured a nation recovering from scandal, strengthening democratic institutions. Ford's tenure demonstrates leadership focused on national stability, transparency, and measured decision-making during periods of political turbulence and public skepticism. Jimmy Carter, born October 1, 1924 in Georgia and deceased October 17, 2023, served as the 39th president. Carter emphasized human rights in foreign policy, mediating the Camp David Accords between Egypt and Israel, a landmark achievement in Middle Eastern diplomacy. Domestically, he faced economic challenges, including inflation, energy crises, and unemployment. Carter promoted environmental conservation, energy efficiency, and transparency in government. Though criticized for limited political success, his moral integrity, commitment to ethics, and post-presidency humanitarian work enhanced his enduring reputation. Carter's leadership reflects the intersection of principle-driven governance and practical limitations. His influence extends globally through conflict resolution, democracy promotion, and public service, exemplifying how presidential legacy can evolve beyond term limits, grounded in ethics and dedication.
Ronald Reagan, born February 6, 1911 in Illinois and deceased June 5, 2004, served as the 40th president. A former actor and governor, Reagan emphasized conservative economic policies, tax cuts, deregulation, and anti-inflation measures, fostering economic growth known as the Reagan Revolution. Internationally, he confronted the Soviet Union with firm diplomacy, escalating the arms race while pursuing eventual arms reduction treaties, contributing to the Cold War's peaceful resolution. Reagan communicated optimism and national pride, revitalizing American confidence. Domestically, he strengthened defense, promoted free market principles, and influenced political ideology for decades. Reagan's charisma, strategic vision, and narrative storytelling reshaped both politics and public perception of leadership. His presidency symbolizes transformative economic policy, global strategy, and the enduring power of personal vision in governance.
George H.W. Bush, born June 12, 1924 in Massachusetts and deceased November 30, 2018, served as the 41st president. A seasoned diplomat and former CIA director, Bush led the U.S. through the end of the Cold War and managed the Gulf War with an international coalition. Domestically, he confronted economic recession while promoting voluntarism and education initiatives. Bush emphasized diplomacy, multilateralism, and cautious pragmatism, balancing global leadership with domestic stability. Though criticized for broken tax promises, his foreign policy achievements strengthened American credibility worldwide. Bush's leadership reflected experience, strategic foresight, and measured decision-making. His presidency reinforced the value of coalition building, moral authority, and pragmatic governance, leaving a legacy of diplomacy, international cooperation, and a stabilizing hand during a transformative period in global politics. Bill Clinton, born August 19, 1946 in Arkansas, served as the 42nd president. His administration emphasized economic growth, balancing the federal budget, and creating jobs during a period of prosperity and technological expansion. Clinton championed welfare reform, NAFTA, and initiatives in education and healthcare, while navigating domestic scandals and impeachment proceedings, ultimately maintaining political resilience. Internationally, he promoted peace in the Balkans and expanded U.S. diplomatic engagement globally. Known for charisma, persuasive communication, and policy pragmatism, Clinton combined political acumen with centrist strategies. His leadership balanced domestic economic priorities with foreign diplomacy, leaving a complex but influential legacy. Clinton's tenure reflects effective governance, resilience amid controversy, and the transformative power of policy-focused, pragmatic, and adaptable presidential leadership in a modernizing nation. George W. Bush, born July 6, 1946, in Connecticut, served as the 43rd president. His presidency was defined by the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, prompting the War on Terror, military interventions in Afghanistan and Iraq, and creation of the Department of Homeland Security. Domestically, he implemented tax cuts, education reforms through No Child Left Behind, and Medicare prescription drug benefits. Bush faced economic challenges during the 2008 financial crisis, testing leadership amid global uncertainty. Known for decisive, sometimes polarizing policies, he emphasized national security, moral conviction, and executive authority. His presidency reshaped American foreign policy, security measures, and economic strategies. Bush's legacy combines crisis management, long-term global impact, and enduring debate over policy decisions, illustrating the challenges of leadership in a volatile, interconnected world. Barack Obama, born August 4, 1961 in Hawaii, served as the 44th president and the first African American to hold the office. His administration focused on economic recovery after the 2008 financial crisis, implementing the Affordable Care Act, Dodd-Frank financial reforms, and stimulus packages. Obama emphasized diplomacy, signing the Iran nuclear deal, normalizing relations with Cuba, and advocating global climate agreements. Domestically, he advanced social issues, including marriage equality and health care reform, while promoting education and technological innovation. Known for eloquence, charisma, and pragmatic idealism, Obama navigated partisan polarization with coalition building and measured leadership. His presidency reshaped American politics, healthcare, and foreign relations, leaving a legacy of progressive reforms, global engagement, and the enduring impact of inspirational and thoughtful executive leadership in the 21st century. Donald J. Trump, born June 14, 1946, in New York, served as the 45th president. A businessman and media personality, Trump's administration focused on deregulation, tax cuts, immigration reform, and reshaping trade policies, including renegotiating NAFTA into USMCA. He emphasized America first in foreign policy, confronting China, withdrawing from international agreements, and challenging global institutions. Trump's leadership style was unconventional, polarizing, and media-centric, mobilizing strong political bases while facing intense opposition. His presidency navigated economic growth, the COVID-19 pandemic, and social unrest, leaving debates over governance, populism, and executive authority. Trump's tenure demonstrates the influence of personality, media, and ideology on modern leadership, highlighting both transformative policy impacts and societal divisions in a highly connected 24/7 information era. Joseph R. Biden, Jr., born November 20, 1942 in Pennsylvania, served as the 46th President of the United States. His administration focused on pandemic recovery, economic stabilization, infrastructure investment, climate action, and public health initiatives. Biden emphasized bipartisanship, coalition building, and restoring institutional trust amid domestic polarization and international challenges. He promoted social equity, technology advancement, and policies addressing economic inequality. Internationally, he worked to strengthen alliances, engage in diplomacy, and advance climate agreements. Known for empathy, pragmatism, and resilience, Biden navigated complex political and global landscapes. His presidency left a legacy of measured leadership, efforts to unify a divided nation, and a commitment to sustainable policies that shaped early 21st century American politics and governance.
Donald J. Trump took office as the 47th President of the United States on January 20, 2025, marking his non-consecutive second term. Since inauguration, his administration has focused on strengthening border security, reshaping trade policies, and reducing federal regulations. Trump has issued multiple executive orders restoring traditional policies, influencing immigration, and expanding tariffs to protect American industries. He prioritizes judicial appointments, federal governance reforms, and infrastructure development, while emphasizing national sovereignty and economic growth. Supporters praise his decisive and bold leadership, while critics highlight increased political polarization and constitutional concerns. Trump's second term continues to reshape U.S. domestic policy, international diplomacy, and economic strategy, leaving a highly scrutinized and historically significant impact on the nation.